Summer 1914. Europe basks in the twilight of the Belle Epoque. Empires are vast, wealth is abundant, and peace seems eternal. But beneath the gilded surface, a web of alliances threatens to pull the world into the abyss. June 28th. Archduke Franz Ferdinand, heir to the Austro-Hungarian throne, arrives in Sarajevo. It is a day of imperial display, unaware of the crosshairs already trained upon him. Two shots shatter the summer morning. Gavrilo Princip, a 19-year-old nationalist, alters the course of human history in mere seconds. The heir is dead. In the frantic weeks that followed, known as the July Crisis, telegrams fly across capitals, ultimatums are given, pride overrides prudence, and the dominoes of diplomacy begin to fall. Austria-Hungary strikes at Serbia, Russia mobilizes, Germany declares war on Russia and France. In a matter of days, the machinery of destruction is fully activated. Millions of young men board trains to the front lines. They leave with flowers in their rifles, promised by their leaders that they will be home before the leaves fall. Germany executes the Schlieffen Plan, a massive sweeping invasion through neutral Belgium to crush France quickly. But the small Belgian army fights back, slowing the German juggernaut. The invasion is brutal. Historic cities burn. The destruction of Leuven shocks the world, turning global public opinion fiercely against the German Empire. France marches into battle wearing the bright red and blue uniforms of the 19th century, straight into the teeth of 20th century machine guns. The slaughter of the frontiers is absolute. Beaten back by superior firepower, the Allied and French armies embark on the Great Retreat. Paris prepares for a siege. All seems lost. But at the River Marne, the Allied retreat halts. A desperate counterattack is launched. The fate of France hangs in the balance on the banks of this bloody river. In a legendary act of improvisation, the military governor of Paris commandeers a fleet of city taxis, ferrying reinforcements to the front. The German advance is miraculously halted. Unable to advance, both sides begin to dig into the earth to escape the deadly storm of lead. A temporary shelter soon becomes a permanent nightmare. Trying to outflank each other, the armies race north, digging continuously until the trenches reach the sea. A scar of barbed wire and mud now divides Europe. In the east, the Russian steamroller mobilizes faster than Germany anticipated, plunging into East Prussia. A different, more fluid, but equally deadly war begins. At Tannenberg, German generals Hindenburg and Ludendorff orchestrated devastating encirclement. The Russian Second Army is completely annihilated, setting the tone for the Eastern Front. Down in the Balkans, the Serbian army fights with astonishing ferocity. Despite being outnumbered, they humiliate the Austro-Hungarian forces, repelling invasion after invasion. Winter descends. The general's promise of a quick victory is buried under snow and freezing mud. Millions realize they are trapped in a war of unprecedented scale. In the Christmas Eve, something extraordinary happens. The guns fall silent. Above the German trenches, small candles are lit, and the sound of carols drifts across the frozen wasteland. Enemies emerge from the mud to shake hands, exchange gifts, and play football. For one fleeting day, humanity prevails over hatred. But the generals are furious, ensuring it will never happen again. 1915. The war of movement is dead. Europe is now swallowed by a labyrinth of mud, disease, and despair. Welcome to the relentless hell of trench warfare. Between the opposing lines lies no man's land, a blasted lunar landscape of wire and craters, where a single misstep means instant death. April 1915, Ypres. Science is weaponized. A sinister green cloud rolls across the fields. Poison gas is unleashed, choking the life from the lungs of terrified men. To survive this new chemical terror, armies develop primitive masks. The soldiers are transformed, stripping away their humanity to look like monsters from a dark, dystopian future. Above the slaughter, a new realm of warfare opens. Flimsy machines of wood and canvas take to the skies, initially just eyes for the artillery below. But reconnaissance quickly evolves into combat. The skies become a deadly arena for solitary knights, the fighter aces who dueled to the death above the clouds. The conflict spills beyond Europe. The Ottoman Empire, the sick man of Europe, enters the war, threatening British supply lines and the Russian flank. Winston Churchill champions a bold stroke, force the Dardanelles Straits with naval power, capture Istanbul, and knock the Ottomans out of the war. April 25, 1915, Australian, New Zealand, British, and French troops storm the beaches of Gallipoli, but they are met with fierce resistance from heavily fortified cliffs. Under the blazing sun and swarms of flies, the Gallipoli campaign turns into a catastrophic stalemate. The Ottoman defenders, led by Mustafa Kemal, will not break. Under the fog of global war, terrible atrocities unfold. Hundreds of thousands of Armenians are deported and perish in the Syrian desert, a dark chapter of systematic tragedy. Far from the land, the British Royal Navy forms an iron ring. Their blockade starves the Central Powers of food and vital war materials. Germany counters with a silent, unseen predator, the U-boat. They declare unrestricted submarine warfare, sinking anything that supplies the Allies. May 1915, a German torpedo strikes the majestic passenger liner RMS Lusitania. It sinks in mere 18 minutes, dragging 1,198 souls to the bottom of the sea. Among the dead are 12 Americans. Across the Atlantic, shock turns into outrage. The United States remains neutral, but the seeds of intervention are planted. Italy enters the fray against Austria-Hungary, opening a surreal battleground. Men fight not only each other, but the brutal, freezing extremes of the Alpine peaks. With millions of men swallowed by the trenches, the home front transforms. Women step into the factories, powering the colossal war machine with their sweat and labor. This is truly a world war. The empires draw deeply from their colonies. Indians, Africans, Canadians, and Anzacs bleed on soils they had never seen before. The scale of destruction escalates. Factories churn out millions of shells. Artillery becomes the true god of the battlefield, reshaping the very geography of Europe. As 1915 bleeds into 1916, the illusion of glory is completely shattered. Both sides now prepare for offensives of unimaginable scale. The worst is yet to come. February 1916, the German High Command enacts a chilling strategy: to bleed France white. The target is the historic fortress city of Verdun. An artillery bombardment of apocalyptic proportions is unleashed. To keep the city from falling, France relies on a single vital artery, the Sacred Way. Thousands of trucks roll day and night, feeding men and munitions into the meat grinder. The battle devolves into an underground nightmare. Deep inside shattered concrete forts, men fight like animals in pitch darkness. Verdun becomes a symbol of ultimate national sacrifice. As Verdun bleeds, the titans of the sea finally clash. At Jutland, the British and German Grand Fleets meet in the largest naval battle in history. Despite heavy losses, the British blockade remains unbroken. To relieve the agonizing pressure on Verdun, the British and French plan a massive joint offensive. July 1, 1916, the Battle of the Somme. The men wait for the whistle. They go over the top, expecting the enemy to be annihilated by artillery. Instead, they walk straight into the rattling teeth of German machine guns. In a single day, the British suffer nearly 60,000 casualties. From the immense tragedy of the Somme, a new mechanical monster is born: the tank. Slow, unreliable, but terrifying, it heralds a fundamental shift in the future of warfare. In the East, Russia proves it is far from defeated. General Brusilov unleashes a brilliantly executed offensive, shattering the Austro-Hungarian lines, but at a terrible cost in Russian lives. Far to the south, the scorching sands of the Middle East ignite. Supported by the British, the Arab revolt erupts, striking a critical blow against the Ottoman Empire's hold on the region. At the heart of this desert uprising is a brilliant and enigmatic British intelligence officer, T.E. Lawrence. His guerrilla tactics sabotage Ottoman supply lines, turning the vast desert into a weapon. Back in Europe, the war of attrition is starving the home front. The British blockade chokes Germany. In the turnip winter, civilians resort to eating animal fodder just to survive. By 1917, the endless feudal offensives break the human spirit. The French army mutinies. Half of the frontline divisions refuse to attack. The alliance teeters on the edge of collapse. But it is the Russian Empire that snaps first. Exhausted by millions of deaths and widespread famine, the Russian people rise up. The Tsar is forced to abdicate. A fragile republic is born. Sensing an opportunity, Germany facilitates the return of an exiled radical to Russia in a sealed train. His name is Vladimir Lenin. He is a weapon more potent than any poison gas. October 1917, the Bolsheviks seize power. Centuries of imperial rule are swept away in the matter of hours. The world's first communist state is born. Lenin fulfills his promise of peace. Russia signs the Treaty of Brest-Litovsk, conceding massive territories to Germany. The Eastern Front is completely silenced. With the East won, Germany prepares to crush the West, but they make a fatal diplomatic miscalculation. British intelligence intercepts the Zimmermann telegram, a secret German plot proposing an alliance with Mexico against the United States. Simultaneously, Germany resumes unrestricted submarine warfare, sinking neutral American ships. The provocations become too great to ignore. April 1917, the isolationist giant awakens. President Woodrow Wilson asks Congress to declare war, stating the world must be made safe for democracy. A lifeline arrives. 1 million fresh, eager American doughboys begin pouring into France. It is a race against time. Can America deploy before Germany launches its final massive war-winning offensive? Spring 1918, Germany launches the Kaiserschlacht, the Emperor's Battle. Freed from the Eastern Front, millions of German troops hurl themselves at the British and French lines. Leading the charge are the elite, terrifying stormtroopers. The new German tactics are devastatingly effective. For the first time in years, the trench stalemate is broken. The Allied lines buckle and tear. Paris is once again threatened. To break French morale, Germany unveils the Paris gun. From 75 miles away, massive shells rain down randomly on the city. It is a psychological terror campaign. But the German advance runs out of steam. At Belleau Wood, they meet the untested Americans. The U.S. Marines fight with such ferocity that the Germans nickname them Teufelhunden, devil dogs. August 1918, the tide turns irreversibly. The Allies launch the 100 Days Offensive. Using tanks, aircraft, and infantry in perfect deadly coordination, they push the exhausted German army back. In the treacherous Meuse-Argonne offensive, an American battalion finds itself entirely surrounded by the enemy. For 6 agonizing days, the lost battalion holds out against impossible odds. Germany's allies begin to crumble. Bulgaria collapses. The Ottoman Empire seeks an armistice. Austria-Hungary shatters from within, disintegrating into independent nations. Germany stands alone. The naval command orders a suicidal final battle. The sailors refuse. Mutiny erupts in Kiel and spreads like wildfire across Germany. The empire is collapsing from within. November 9th, facing revolution and imminent defeat, Kaiser Wilhelm II abdicates and flees into exile. The German Empire falls. A republic is hastily declared. Deep in the forest of Compiègne, inside a private railway carriage, the defeated German delegation signs the armistice. The terms are brutal, but they have no choice. The 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month, 1918, the guns fall silent. The terrifying roar that had deafened Europe for 4 years abruptly ends. Across the Allied world, joyous celebrations erupt in the streets. The nightmare is over. The war to end all wars has finally concluded. But the victory rings hollow for millions. 20 million soldiers and civilians are dead. 21 million are wounded. A generation has been wiped from the face of the earth. As the guns quiet, a new horseman of the apocalypse rides. The Spanish flu sweeps across the globe, carried by returning soldiers, claiming more lives than the war itself. 1919. The victors gather at the Palace of Versailles to redraw the map of the world. Empires are carved up. The vanquished are excluded from the table. Germany is forced to sign a punitive treaty, accepting full blame for the war and crushing economic reparations. In the Hall of Mirrors, the seeds for an even darker future are planted. The fallen Ottoman Empire is divided. Britain and France draw arbitrary straight lines across the sands of the Middle East, ignoring ethnic and religious realities, setting the stage for a century of conflict. For the survivors, the war never truly ends. Thousands suffer from shell shock, a shattered psyche. The modern understanding of trauma is born in the agonizing aftermath. To honor the countless millions who vanished into the mud without a trace, nations create tombs for the unknown soldier, a monument to anonymous sacrifice. Today, the scars on the earth have healed. In the fields of Flanders, red poppies blow among the crosses, row on row. A beautiful, tragic reminder of the war that forged the modern world, lest we forget.